The Ganawagi Education Center, along with Ganawagi Survival School, was quite disappointed in all of the recent press that has come out surrounding KSS and the issue with drugs. What we've been most disappointed with was the insinuation that KSS has a drug problem. There is not a drug problem at KSS. There have been some issues with drugs at KSS, which are common to any high school environment right across the country. We have been very transparent as a school system in letting the community know that there have been issues. So in saying that the education center or survival school is throwing out students and not handling the situations, we've been dealing with the situations, following the procedures that are outlined in the policy, as well in notifying media and letting individuals know that we are dealing with the situations. There is some confidentiality as we are dealing with minors, so some things cannot be divulged. But to say we have a drug problem at the school, it is false. What we were asking before the holiday in an article that we were interviewed, both school committee along with Sandra and myself, was that the community, since Survival School is taking these steps and working on the policy and addressing the issues, we need community services, we need the police, we need other organizations to get on board as well, because these are youth of our community. And for us to think that we could just follow the policy and that's the end, it's not the end. And we need these students to be supported beyond, the actions that have to be taken as a school.
And as a new administrator there, working on enforcing the policy, it feels as if, you have to play police and you have to play the administrative role as well, in order to, for the safety of the kids. You need to make everyone feel safe in the school, not just be watchful of students who might be, under the influence or might be, carrying it or whatever. You need to be watching all of the students, and there for them in every way for academics, and be there for them when things like this happen. I already knew as a former student as well that is the policy. It's zero tolerance. So as a parent, I was comfortable with the administration enforcing the zero tolerance policy, and now I'm in that position of enforcing the zero tolerance policy, and I look at it as if all the students are, it's just a larger number of my own kids. I'm not going to say they're all my own kids, but that's how you need to look at it, because you need to look at the safety of all of them, and give them as much information according to the policies, how it works, how it follows, and this is what we have to follow. It was passed so many years ago. Students passed it. The staff was involved, administration, Ed Center, everybody came together, the community, to create this policy, zero tolerance. And it always went back, when I was a student, it always went back to what the students wanted. And the students always reinforced that it was zero tolerance. And the parents would back them up on that.
According to the policy, the first warning is basically the information that this is the policy and this is what the consequences are, that you will be expelled from school if you're caught with drugs or you're in the vicinity of some people doing drugs. The thing is that once this happens and they're caught, they're expelled from the school for the remainder of that school year. So if it's in September, it's for the remainder of the year. If it's in May, it's for the remainder of that year. They can enter back to survival school after that point once they've gone through some treatment and they've written a letter requesting to come back to school. And however, those students that do return, if they're caught again, they're expelled they're no longer allowed to come to survival school. I think what would be really important to note, though, as well, is if we're looking at has there been an increase, really, I think the awareness from moving from a campus school to one building has increased supervision of students, because all of the staff are in one building, all of the students are in one building. And I think students are feeling confident and enough at this point to be able to go and make reports when they see things happening. So that says something about the administration of the school. If a student is confident enough to feel that they would be protected to make these reports, and they would not be retaliated against because it's going to be dealt with and handled. So I think, if we look at it from that perspective, Survival School administration, staff, students are all taking an active role in ensuring that their school is zero tolerance. It's important to them. And for these students that have been expelled, I think it's a good wake up, because if they're in the process of just experimenting or just beginning, there's an awareness now for them, for their families, for community services, that we need to do something to address these issues.
As administrator, I'm working with the Community Protection Task Force, where we have a seat on the task force. When I was there, I was asked, what could these organizations do to support Survival School in this issue that's happening in the community? And I said that it would be great if we would get support from everybody with whatever tools that you have that would support Survival School in the initiative to, make it aware that it is not just a Survival School issue, but make it aware in the community that it is a community issue. And there are people that are worried about their youth and their grandchildren and nieces and nephews, because in the end, we're all related. We all come from the same, people, and we're all living in the same community. And our future, people who are going to be sitting in these positions that we have or anyone else has in the community, these are the future, these young teenagers right now. And if they continue on a path of drugs and alcohol, then how are we going to fulfill those positions when we need to be looking out for the next generations to come? Like all of the kids at Step by Step, and all of the kids at Gardiwa Nordo and Indian Way School, all the young little ones, Gardianuha, and here at Cattery. There has to be someone out there looking, because we're not going to be here forever.
Initially, there was a lot of reaction in "you're throwing kids away," and I do have to honestly say that my personal belief on that, I agreed. I personally felt, as a parent, as a teacher, felt that we can't just throw these kids away, and we have a responsibility to them. However, as I spoke before, we are not just throwing them away. We are looking at alternative situations. We do not have the capacity at the school to handle like a sub-program, because we have parents, rightly so, that are concerned for their children and do not want that to be sort of the prevalent thing, that students get caught with drugs and it's just like a slap on the wrist and they're right back in the classroom and there's nothing being handled and what's being done. We have a number of students that we have to ensure the safety of, and we have to ensure the reputation of the school. At the same time, we're accounting for and saying we're going to provide for these students. We're going to provide and ensure that we can set up this support system. And so this is a priority of the Education Center, is working on this relationship to make sure that we have something, because again, as a board, we don't have other schools to support us to be able to do these transitions. And staffing as well, we have a limited number of staffing, which this requires the community support. It requires the support of other organizations to provide services in counseling, in family support, in drug awareness. So I think we need to take a more proactive approach as well with all students in drug awareness.
By someone saying, oh, we're throwing the kids away, we're not. If we decided to turn our backs and not address it and let it go on, then I feel we are throwing our kids away if we do that, because we're not doing anything to put a roadblock in whatever road they're deciding to take, because it will lead to a difficult road later on in life.
So I think basically the message that as Survival School and the Education Center would like to portray to the community is that there's never a perfect situation anywhere. Each school is unique and has their own set of issues that they're dealing with. We are dealing with the issues that arise, and to remember that media has their own agenda in what's being reported and how it's being reported. So it's important maybe to get some clarification before people start making judgments as to what's going on at the schools. Survival School was also in the papers recently concerning the honor roll student recognition. There was an article that was done presenting what had happened, and then there was some information, sort of questioning that there were only 29 students that were on this honor roll. We are very proud of the students that obtained this 80% average.
In the past, students have received honor roll certificates from teachers and different subjects in the school, but there's never been a full big ceremony to give the certificates to the students, and this was something that we worked on, and it turned out really, really well. It's a real honor to be giving these kids, these certificates and praising them, even if it's a number of 29, and for me that's a really high number, 29 students. If it was 10 students, it would be just as exciting, because it's showing that how much our students care about their education, care about themselves.
So by having the ceremony, it's almost like an incentive for other students to say, I want to be a part of that. So sometimes if things are not recognized, students will just go, oh, it's good enough, kind of thing. But now to really push them to say there is something and there is recognition, so let's celebrate those successes. So I think it would be important to make yourself aware, not only by newspapers and radio and things like that, but to make yourself aware through visiting the school, to talking to some of our students, to recognizing the accomplishments and things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the Education Center has been made aware of an issue concerning the KSS diplomas. Previously, there was an entente that was signed with the ministry for the purpose of teacher certification. Our programs at the Education Center at all 3 schools were brought to the ministry and were certified by the ministry as being equivalent. And this was over 20 years ago. So the entente was signed and it expired a few years ago, and it was renewed for a period of 5 years. The current entente has expired as of June 2010. So right now we're working without an official agreement with the ministry. Through the entente that had happened for the teacher certification, the ministry agreed that since our curriculum was equivalent to certified teachers, it was equivalent to certify that students were ready for post-secondary education. So there was an unofficial agreement with individuals at CEGEP level. So admissions office deans that were at CEGEPs in the past. Since then, people have changed positions. There are new people at the CEGEP level, there are new people at the ministry level, and there was never an official signed agreement stating that the ministry will recognize KSS diplomas as equivalent to the ministry diplomas. We haven't been told at this point by CEGEPs that they will not accept students. However, there is a possibility, depending on the numbers of students that apply for CEGEP, that if the qualifications are not there, they may not get acceptance into specific programs, particularly the health sciences, because those programs are in high demand and they have a limited number of students that they can accept.